I think the first theme we had was, let's see if we can get the best scholars in housing and real estate, and I think we've done that. What makes it especially exciting is the amazing access to data that we have now. For a long time I think we couldn't make the progress because we didn't have the ability to test our theories, and it's a pleasure that we're able to sort of get papers that get at these effects from a different point of view.
Our paper today is part of a kind of new view of the housing boom. We all agreed that there was something happened to credit markets, and it led to all kinds of crazy stuff like subprime. The starting point for all this was we had this credit expansion, and it led to a huge shift in debt toward low-income communities, and the answer is not according to Equifax. Where did the $6 trillion go? Overwhelmingly, it went to high-income households. So our old view of subprime was that subprime led to a big increase in relative amounts of debt for low-income households. The new view is that what subprime did was allowed low-income households to keep up with their high-income counterparts.
Once you take the subprime away, it's a totally different housing market. Exotic financing here is different, has different implications from a policy perspective, and it's different implications for the economics.
With the fixed housing supply, house prices are going to rise. The mortgage quality drops, the defaults rise. This increases the debt weight costs, basically due to foreclosures. And in bad times, the banking sector becomes fragile.
Not blaming the victim, folks, but there is an opportunity cost for every investment decision.
The frequency of these expirations is happening when it was incredibly easy to borrow on home equity loans and those kinds of things. And so, more than anything else, it's just a cautionary note that these estimates could be a little bit on the higher side when transaction costs for borrowing on collateral were especially low. Okay, nothing again this design can do about it, but it's just a matter of thinking about how I would frame this question or think about these results in the broader context.
We need special servicers in commercial properties relative to houses because you need someone who can step in and run a hotel when the borrower is in default. I find a steady increase in the use of affiliated service providers. I think this is suggestive evidence that people are concerned about these treated special servicers.
When there's collective bargaining allowed for government workers, this leads to large increases in payrolls, wages, health insurance benefits, but doesn't lead to increased corruption. A certain government trying to raise taxes without providing additional government services. People are going to want to migrate away to say, why do I want to pay these high taxes? I can go live next door, which doesn't charge this high tax. But when they migrate out, that lowers housing demand in that area. On the flip side, when collective bargaining is prohibited, this leads to slight increases in the size of the government workforce, but no effects on wages or benefits, but large increases in corruption. Collective bargaining may give a way for negotiations to capture rents that are on the table, and not allowing public sector workers to collectively bargain may actually lead them to engage in corruption. We can actually look at how did this differences in housing supply elasticity affect the decisions of the state and local governments.
I think the way that housing and real estate affects the economy tends to vary a great deal. We've looked at things on politics, we're looking at things on the corporate side, and it's an impetus to sort of thinking of new theories, and hopefully it doesn't take a crisis again to shift tastes.